I'm going to let some people roll in, but we are going to kick our session off very soon. Tonight's session is all about getting the best job in tech. And we are here from PreSales Academy to talk to y'all about our profession, our program, and we're really excited for y'all to come in, learn, as well as get your questions answered. So please feel free to use any of the comment features in LinkedIn Live to share your questions because we want to answer them at the end of the day. So let's get in to be mindful of everyone's time here. So starting off, we have a fun agenda packed for you all today. Today we are really going to dive into some basics. So what is pre-sales? What do solutions consultants do? We're going to also dive into what is PreSales Academy, so our company, as well as you all will have the opportunity to meet a recent graduate from PreSales Academy. Sam Gold is here with us from Telehealth, and we are really excited to have him share a bit about his story and journey and his current experiences as a solutions engineer. So super happy to have Sam here today. And then we're going to wrap up tonight's session with a little bit of Q&A. So making sure that y'all are feeling good and comfortable and getting those questions answered. So to kick it off, let's do a quick meet and greet on who is here. And I'm going to hand it off to Liz so she can introduce herself.
Absolutely. It is so great to be with all of you. My name is Liz Anderson. I'm the Director of Learning here at PreSales Collective and PreSales Academy. And really what I do is I help manage all of our enablement programs. So that includes PreSales Academy and all the great work that Nina and Winnie do. It also includes courses like our Foundations course, as well as Leader Elevate. Basically, the goal is to help elevate the pre-sales profession, no matter what stage of pre-sales that you're in. Before that, I was also a solutions engineering manager over at Slack, and have been in the pre-sales space for over a decade. It's flown by, but it's been an absolute wonderful thing and definitely the best job that a lot of people don't know about, although you are starting to know about. So that's wonderful.
Yep. And I am Nina Berger. I am the Senior Career Services Manager here at PreSales Academy. So my role ultimately oversees our admissions process as well as our career placement process, making sure that our students are being supported at the front end and back end of our experience here at PreSales Academy. My background is from higher education, so I get to leverage those skills into our lovely pre-sales space. So thank you so much, Liz, for that introduction. Now, let's get into the bulk of this presentation. So y'all are all here for many different reasons. And I feel like a lot of people, when they are exploring different career opportunities as well as different pathways, they are looking for change for a lot of different reasons. I think what we have historically seen within kind of the career changer space is there's sometimes this mentality of you need direct experience to get a role. And let's face it, a lot of these tech roles out there nowadays, it is so hard to gain experience unless you've actually been in the role. And that is what we are kind of providing here with our program and the services we provide our students. Is we are helping students gain the training, the coaching, as well as the support to make a transition into some really life-changing roles. Ultimately, we are firm believers that pre-sales is one of the best roles in tech because it combines both interpersonal and technical skills. And I'm going to dive. We are really here to make sure that, hey, your needs are being met and we're helping you get to that finish line of making a successful career change. So let's keep this ball rolling. So one big thing we always love to share about our program, before we dive into the what is pre-sales and all those fun basics, is really sharing about our alumni, because our alumni are true champions of our experience, and we've been able to help a lot of graduates make that transition into a pre-sales or solutions-based role. This is just a list of some of our past alumni who are currently in SE roles. Clarice Fairchild comes from a more of a SDR, BDR background and is now at Cornerstone. Cahil's coming from more of a financial background, is now at FusionAuth. And Natalie used to be a past real estate agent, and now she's at Upland Software. What I have noticed amongst all of our graduates is all of them come from a variety of backgrounds, but they all are able to bring in skills that connect well into pre-sales. So let's learn more about pre-sales. Let's figure out what are those skills to make sure ultimately that you can see, hey, am I a good fit for this profession? And I could leverage some things I have built and refined in the past as I go forward into a future career. So let's get into this. We are going to dive into really what is pre-sales. And when we're talking about what is pre-sales, we need to start with the bigger picture on, let's talk about technology sales as a whole. So when we're talking about technology sales, we're really talking about companies who are making online products. Think about products like Zoom or products like Salesforce. Those companies need to sell those products to other companies so they can perform their business. So pre-sales is ultimately a sales function that exists when two companies are trying to sell or buy their technology. And a really good way to kind of understand how that pre-sales role comes into play is thinking about, hey, what are all the core tech sales roles that exist when a company, let's say a small business, is coming to Zoom and looking to buy that product for their team meetings. So one of the first roles that is very common in tech sales is the sales development rep, or the SDR. So this person exists on the front end of the sales process. They are the opener. They are finding opportunities, finding clients, and really ultimately making sure that, hey, these clients are a good fit for our company, our product, and we're going to bring them into the conversation. The next important person to keep in mind in the sales process is the account executive, or AE. This is the closer. They are the one who will take any opportunities and clients that the SDR brings in. They'll kind of bring them under their umbrella, and they're going to support the longevity of that sale. So they are the ones who are going to be helping answering questions, but ultimately they're also the one who is negotiating the deal and closing the deal. So we've kind of touched upon the front end of the sales process and the back end of the sales process, but really, who comes in the middle? Well, that is our solutions engineer or our pre-sales consultant. They are really the person who comes into the sales process and shows off that piece of technology or that solution. So that person is engaging with the client. They're working hand in hand with their account executive, and ultimately they are making sure that, hey, this client understands how this product works and also how it brings value to their company. What I have found historically is that pre-sales consultant really is a make or break with a lot of sales, because they are the ones who are really convincing the client that this product is going to be a good fit for them, and that is something they need and will bring value to their company going forward. So that is our brief overview of pre-sales. But another thing to consider is, when we're talking about tech sales roles, there are a lot of titles out there, and that is completely normal for you to be like, hey, why am I seeing so many titles related to this pre-sales role? That's because a lot of different companies will label it as a different title based on their alignment and their structure. But ultimately, if you're seeing a role that's labeled as a sales engineer, a solutions consultant, solutions engineer, and those roles have similar functions to what the pre-sales role is, which we're going to break down a little bit more, it's most likely the same role across the board. While these roles have different titles, and sometimes they might have slightly different responsibilities. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what makes a role a pre-sales role is it exists in the middle of the sales process, and they are the experts in the software product that they are selling. And they really are working with other components of the sales process to work together to get that goal of generating revenue for their company. So that all being said, I'm going to dive into what do solutions consultants do. But before I do that, as a reminder to anyone in this space, please put your comments, your questions in the chat box. We would love to answer any questions y'all have about pre-sales, the academy, all that fun stuff. We're probably going to touch upon a lot of questions in this presentation, but I want to make sure that if y'all have burning questions, do not keep it bottled up. Feel free to always put it in the chat. So let's continue on. What do solution consultants actually do? So I kind of alluded to some of it earlier in our breakdown of different roles, but the first big thing that a solution consultant does is they are working hands-on with technology. And one big way that they work hands-on with technology is by doing product demonstrations. So this is an opportunity where a professional gets to show how the product can help solve a client's perspective business challenges. So they're kind of going into the product and showing specific features and talking about ultimately, hey, how will this fit to your company and your needs? These presentations or demos are really configured and tailored to the audience that they're working with. So it's not just a bright presentation on how the product works. It's fitting to the client. And this can be a really energizing part of the job and the profession because you get to work with people and you get to perform and answer questions. If you are one who likes to be kind of like out there and engaging with others, that is where product demonstrations really kind of thrives, is you get to show things off and have a really dynamic conversation. Another big aspect of the pre-sales role is solving problems, because let's face it, all the different clients that are coming and looking to buy these products, they're going to come and buy this because they're looking for a product to solve an issue at their company. Maybe they need something to help organize their data, or they need a platform to engage with their peers. That is why the solutions consultant role really has a lot of problem solving intertwined, because you are ultimately answering technical and business questions and acting as a solutions expert for that client. And what's nice about that is there's always a new challenge that comes along with working with new clients. So since every client is different, they have a different structure and flow to their company, you're constantly learning and helping people solve problems, which makes this a really stimulating role. And you're rather bored because you have so much of that variety. Another major element of the role is building relations. So I mentioned that before with kind of partnering with the account executive, but this role thrives on relationship building because let's face it, nowadays, people don't want to buy something just from a blank screen or an AI robot. They want to buy it from people. And being able to build connections with your prospect and your customers, as well as build connections with the sales team, is so important for the pre-sales role, because you are the one who is leveraging partnerships to seal the deal. You're also one who works so closely with the clients, so you get to gather insights and give feedback to other people's on different areas of your company. So it's really helpful to be in this section where, hey, I'm learning so much about the clients we're working with, and I get to leverage that to help benefit others at my company. So relationship building is really key in pre-sales. Now let's review also what is not encompassed with pre-sales, because I chatted a lot about interpersonal side and a little bit of the technical side, but there's some other things you need to keep in mind. Is even though this role exists in sales, pre-sales roles typically do not have any cold calling. That is reserved for your sales development rep. So very much on the front end of the sales process, ultimately making sure that, hey, this company is bringing in new clients. Also, you're usually not going to see any negotiation with this role because that is going to be existing within the account executive role. And last but not least, you're usually not going to see a lot of coding within this role, which is nice because you still get to work with products, but you don't need to work as much on the back end like a software engineer, which sometimes can be intimidating to people depending on, hey, I'm comfortable with tech, but I'm not comfortable with tech to the point that, hey, I need to be a full coder. Like you could be interested in technology and not do coding all the time. So that's kind of nice about the pre-sales profession. So now I've shared a lot about what is pre-sales, but let's talk about why do we consider pre-sales as a really good profession. So since we created the pre-sales community, we talked to a lot of people who are in this profession. And what we hear all the time is from people who've kind of come into this profession is they wish they found out about this job earlier in their career. I feel like a lot of people just happen upon pre-sales because they were in tech in a different form or someone brought it to their attention. And honestly, there's a lot of reasons to like pre-sales beyond just the position, like roles and requirements that I mentioned before. What is nice about being in pre-sales and being in the technology space is you really have the opportunity for growth and high earning over time within pre-sales. So what's nice about pre-sales is these roles typically have a pretty high salary. So what we like to see, we've been seeing actually in the pre-sales profession is most of these entry-level roles are sitting around 100K, but our students coming from PreSales Academy are actually landing averages of salaries over 118K. So there's a lot of strong base and like value out there for these skills within pre-sales. In addition, it's nice to see within the profession that there's also a higher earning potential over time. You are not getting to a point where, hey, I'm feeling stagnant in my role. Since you have elements of both a base salary as well as variable and bonuses, you have opportunities to grow your earning potential over time. Plus, what's also nice about this profession is the skills that you learn for both demoing and building relationships that could be highly leveraged in adjacent solutions roles over time. So as one who might want to grow in their role and go down different paths, these are skills that can be highly transferable to a variety of different roles as well as different subsections of the technology profession. In addition, I feel like what helps a lot with people as they're kind of thinking about why pre-sales is really thinking about the companies that hire sales engineers. This is just a small snippet of companies where a lot of our students have landed. And what we've seen across these different companies where our students have landed is our students get to work at companies that really allow them to grow their skills and become really amazing solutions engineers. They get to work with products that are really cutting edge and solving a lot of major problems for businesses and allowing businesses to grow and get to that next level. So this is just a quick snapshot, but this is just an example of how, hey, there's a lot of companies out there that are selling products and they need pre-sales professionals or solutions consultants to do that work. That being said, I am going to stop my share and hand it over to Liz. And in the meantime, as Liz is getting set up, I am going to answer some questions I see in the chat. There's a question about seeing this presentation online or the slides afterwards. We will be posting this full recording online for anyone to watch in their off time. So the recording will be available on our LinkedIn. We're also going to send it out on our website via YouTube link. So there will be opportunities to see this later. And I'm going to save Asia's question for later because I think it'll be a really good one to tie in when our guest speaker comes up. So that being said, Liz, are you ready to go?
I think I am. Just got to get unmuted. I love all this, and one other point that I'll make too, since I've been in the profession for a while. I'll just share my own story and why I love being in pre-sales and why I think it's something that's worth pursuing for a lot of folks. Is there's so much, we talked about the variety, but there's just so much of your brain that you get to use in this role. And if you enjoy being challenged, if you enjoy having a creative side and having like building out decks, but making them in a way to make complex problems easy. If you're the person that your family goes to help solve a problem, I mean, there was always a joke. There was one time the title was solution consultant, and we'd always say, oh, we just consulted you a solution, no matter what it was, because you just love being able to solve problems, be able to use your brain in a creative way, and then use the technical side of things. And there's not that many roles out there that use both this creative sales type outlet with the technical side of things. And it is just so incredible to be able to do that and be in a role that encourages that and that curiosity. Love the fact that this is a role where you can get paid to ask questions. With that, I'll go ahead and go back to my regularly scheduled content, which is how can PreSales Academy help you? So we've covered the what PreSales is, why it's worth considering. So how do you jump into it? Because it's not necessarily the easiest role just to go in and say like, yep, I'm going to go. It's not necessarily for that entry level idea, but because it's high paid for a reason. It requires knowledge, it requires skills. Um, and before someone is going to pay you that $118,000 or more a year, they want to make sure that you can do the role. So what we've done is PreSales Academy gives you the knowledge and skills to be able to lay you up to be able to land that pre-sales role and successfully start that new career path as a pre-sales professional. So let's get into like what this means from a programming standpoint, right? It is a 10-week program where there's actually over 100 hours of content, which is incredible. I mean, there's a lot of work to do, but also it is still a part-time program. We cover 8 different topics around pre-sales, again, because it is that broad spectrum of knowledge that you have to know across sales and technical. We've also done this over 3 distinct stages, which I think we're going to get to in a little bit, but basically it helps make sure that you know exactly what you're learning. We've done this in a way where we almost have a reverse classroom model to make it easy so that you can really get and understand this content from a base level. We meet 12 times together live, and we go do 5 role plays. So for those of you who haven't been kind of in the tech space or in the sales space, role plays are something that are absolutely incredible part of learning and developing, because you can learn the content all you want, but if you're not getting on role plays and actually doing it and practicing it, it's going to be really difficult. And so we definitely allow that space. And not only do we have these 5 role plays, but many of them we bring in our volunteers, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, who are actually in the field to give you real feedback of what you would get if you were, for instance, at a real company. So I mentioned there's 8 different topics that we talk about, and these are what these look like. So these are all the baseline things that you need to know to be able to be prepared for a pre-sales profession. So not only getting that overview, but understanding a little bit about the sales process and what's important about value within there. Making sure that you understand how to run something called discovery. So that is basically, how do you ask those questions in the very beginning of the sales cycle to get what you need, and how to prepare for the important meetings that you're giving, those demonstrations, those value overviews. Then we're going to over how to present and how to demo effectively and give you again, that baseline knowledge, those little tips and tricks that are going to help wow somebody with a presentation versus, just being in there. And all the way to technical validation, understanding some basic core technologies you might need to use, getting you prepared to find that role, and then interviewing for the role. And as I mentioned before, we go through these different stages. So as we mentioned, there's 3. So the first part of the program is going to be that ramp up stage. So this is where you're going through, you are learning on a self-paced content. There's online e-learning, but you're really getting the basis before we then go into our stage 2 of the program, which is where we have all of our live sessions. And this is really the meat and potatoes of the program, if you want to say. And this is where we have that hands-on learning. We have those role plays. We have very incredible discussions. We bring guests on from the field, and you really understand what it's like to be in the role and really prepare here. This is, I feel like, where everybody goes from stage 1, you're getting prepared. Then stage 2, you're absolutely accelerating. And then all the way into stage 3, where we're preparing you for your job pursuit process. And it's all about how do you put these skills in place and market yourself and put yourself in a position where you can go ahead and land that job. And then, of course, I can't talk about our programming and how amazing it is without talking about all the work that went into it. So we have so many individuals who have put so much time and energy into this program to validate it and make sure this is what it is. We are not here. I mean, I came from the pre-sales world. We're not one to be a program to put something out without actually knowing that is going to be valuable and it's going to prepare you for that role, because it has been designed by folks who are currently in the role itself. And then it is all the program focusing on developing competency as well, not just the skills, not just the knowledge, plus adding that with making sure that you have the right networking connections. A lot of tech can be, and you realize this is how you're networking with folks, how you are learning from others who are currently in the role or who are trying to get into the role or those who you aspire to be. And this is really about building those connections, not only for you to help you know how to be a good pre-sales professional and how to get that job, but building those foundational skills of how do you network, how do you connect with people so that you're setting yourself up for a really, really good career path. And then, of course, talking about what are the roles that help support you in this. So it's not just you alone. Obviously, you have to do the work. You have to be the one to do this new path for yourself, but you're not going to be doing it solely alone. You're going to have a PreSales Academy advisor. Their role is to help with program support, any job placement coaching. And just honestly, the folks that we have, and Nina is one of them, I am so grateful that they are a part of this program and part of advisors, because they really do genuinely care about your success. I genuinely care about your success when you're in the program. We always love to see what our alumni are doing. We always support them as well. It's fabulous to be a part of this community in that way. You also get access to both a coach and a mentor, and they play different roles when you're a student. So as a coach, this is the person who's going to give you that role play feedback. They're going to help you develop the competencies needed to be able to do well when you're starting off in the role, and help give you particular direction. And from a mentor perspective, those are the people who are really going to give you that advice and guidance and be that sounding board for you as you're getting started in the career. They might even help you start with connecting you with individuals, but really it's about having that they help you understand maybe how to start thinking about that career, what advice they can give you of things that maybe they wish that they would have gotten early on in their career. And with this, basically the fact that every student gets 3 particular individuals helping them along the path, that's an incredible support system starting off with. And this just gives you an idea of who these folks are. So these advisors, these coaches, these instructors that we bring on, they are absolutely incredible members of the pre-sales community, and so grateful that they get to be a part of this in your journey, and excited to have you meet some of them if you're a part of the Pre-Sales Academy. And with that, Nina, do you want me to send the slides back over to you?
Yes, please. So let's continue on and talk about kind of the mentality that it goes into Pre-Sales Academy. So ultimately, what we want to kind of remind everyone is our program does provide that training and support to kind of help you learn about pre-sales, develop the competencies to move forward. But ultimately, especially when it comes to your job search process, we cannot do the work for you. You have to put the work in to get what you want out of this experience. And we've been able to develop really great trainings and playbooks to help students land their first job in pre-sales or a solutions adjacent role. But it's really key for any student coming into this experience to be aware of, hey, you know, I need to put in the time and effort, because that is what's going to make a difference about me starting this journey and finishing this journey. So I just want to be upfront about that with everyone, because at the end of the day, I cannot apply for students for their roles. They need to drive that process. But we are still here to hold your hand and kind of help guide you through that experience and provide you with the resources to get to that point. Along with that, you're also, what we really want to focus in on with this experience is we want to make sure that any student coming through Pre-Sales Academy really touches upon 2 outcomes. So first of all, we want you to land the pre-sales role that you want, whether that is at a company that really speaks to your interests or a company that allows you to start off and grow. Some of our students decide, hey, you know, I would love to leverage a solutions adjacent role first before getting into a pre-sales role, because this is a company I'm really passionate about, and there is maybe a post-sales role that I could still leverage my pre-sales skills and set myself up for success long-term. So that's our first outcome. We really want you to make a transition and land a role that really you feel happy and comfortable with and really helps propel you forward. And then the second thing we really like to focus in on with students and setting themselves up for success is really making sure that, hey, you have a very solid foundation you could build off in your career. Every company is going to be slightly different in regards to their best practices with how you're going to demo or do a discovery. But with Pre-Sales Academy, you are going to have a very solid foundation of best practices that have been routinely refined and validated in the field. And I think that's really important to think about and bring to the table when you're thinking about a long-term career in a new area. So those are the big things we really focus on. And other things to consider when you're kind of going through this journey is there are a lot of different ways one can make the transition into pre-sales. You can go about it by yourself. You can join a program like Pre-Sales Academy. There's also like other ways and other learnings you can drive it. But when we're thinking about the Pre-Sales Academy experience, these are some really main points that I hear time and time again that I would love for everyone to kind of keep in mind as they're considering their pathway forward. First thing that a lot of people consider is, hey, you know, what's the size of this experience? What is the cohort? Am I going to be set up for success? Or am I going to be one of 200, 100 plus students in this experience. At PreSales Academy, we are really focused in on having small cohorts because we know that is important for each student to feel well supported as well as get to know their peers. So our cohorts are really ranging from 20 to 24 students each time we're hosting a cohort every 2 or so months. The next thing that we really like to emphasize in our experience that might be different than another boot camp or just going about it alone is the fact that we do have tons of support for our students. Liz mentioned it before, but our support for our students is really key to help giving them the confidence and the reassurance that, hey, what I'm doing is correct and I'm not going about this experience alone. And then the last thing to think about is really the element of how is this program setting you up for success? Because at the end of the day, what we have seen with our graduates landing roles is many of these students landing roles are coming into companies and they're bringing in new skills and experiences that the company hasn't seen before. We've been able to help our students really land roles and retain those positions because they're able to really showcase strong skills that are an asset to their team and company. And I think that's a really big kind of call out to our training and the people around the PreSales Academy experience. So those are really important things to keep in mind when you're kind of making the choices and considering, hey, what's a good pathway for me if I really want to dive into this profession? So one last slide before I bring our amazing guest speaker up. I'm going to let them prepare in the background, but let's talk about our admissions process at PreSales Academy, because while we have such great training and resources, and since we have such a small catered experience, what we do with all of our students who are considering PreSales Academy is we do bring them through an admissions process that allows us to kind of validate the students who are coming through the experience and ultimately make sure they're a good fit, not only for the academy, but also for the profession, because we want to make sure that you will be a good fit for this profession long-term. So anyone who's looking into PreSales Academy, the admissions process is a couple steps. So we are going to have you submit an initial application with a video response. And then those candidates who are moving forward will go into an admissions call with our staff to get to know us. Ultimately, what I think is really important with the admissions process is knowing our candidates and feeling very comfortable with their success. One thing we really look at, actually 5 things we look at with our students is what we call the 5 C's. So we're really looking for ultimately, hey, are you really committed to making this experience? Do you have strong communication skills that are going to propel you not only in a one-on-one setting, but also in a presentation setting? Do you have those critical thinking skills that are going to be necessary for problem solving? Do you have that curiosity to allow you to kind of pick up and bring more technical skills into your portfolio, but also dig deeper and understand the products you're going to be working with? And then last but not least, do you have the coachability, the ability to kind of take that feedback and run with it, because that is really vital, not only for our program and the role plays that we do, but also for the profession and your long-term growth. So overall, what I always love to say about PreSales Academy and the pre-sales profession is you do not need technical experience to make the transition, but you do need a combination of our 5 C's to really be successful in this program and this profession. And speaking about successful people, I am very, very excited to announce our guest speaker for tonight, Sam Gold. He was part of cohort 7, and now he is a current solutions engineer at Trella Health. Sam comes from a bit of a sales background. He had a little bit of SDR experience before he became an account executive at his prior role. And I will hand it over to Sam so he could do a way better introduction of himself than I am. So here is Sam. Thanks so much for being here this evening. We are so excited to have you share about your experience.
Thanks so much, Nina, and thank you, Liz, for having me on. Yeah, hey everyone, my name is Sam. I was a graduate of cohort number 7. I'm now a solution engineer at Trella Health, and I think what would be most beneficial is kind of start out with just explaining to the group everything in my role, kind of my day-to-day, and then getting into my journey into finding the PreSales Academy, and then what PreSales Academy has done for me in terms of helping prepare me for my role, and what you all could expect being in the program in terms of job search and things like that. So My role of being a solution engineer at Trello Health, we're a data analytics provider for the post-acute care industry. So we're selling a analytics platform to home health agencies as well as hospices, and then also some hospitals. And not to get too technical, but there's a lot of different types of claims data that we deal with. So I've had to really ramp up and learn a lot about data analytics and doctor claim data in a short period of time. My role is very cross-functional. I work with 4 different departments. Our pre-sales team sits on the product team, which might be a little bit different in terms of all the roles that you all might come across. Sometimes pre-sales sits on product, and other times it'll sit in the sales department. For us, we sit on the product team. I also work with our marketing department, our sales team, and our customer success team. With our sales team, I'm helping do technical discovery. I'm doing demos as well as scoping and implementation periods when we close deals. For our customer success team, I'm helping out with any sort of cross-sell opportunities for current customers. For our marketing team, I'm helping develop micro demos as well as story lanes and different marketing materials such as like case studies, and providing a continuous feedback loop for new features that we're rolling out. And then working with our product managers, I get a behind the curtain view of product roadmaps and providing them with feedback from demos and customers that I meet out at trade shows and various different opportunities, and sometimes on-site meetings of our products and our solutions. So there's a lot there. There's a lot of different variability in my day-to-day. And like Nina and Liz have mentioned, it's always something new every single day. I'm never doing one thing and stagnant in one area. I'm doing a lot of different things, and it provides just a fresh kind of day-to-day experience. And that's one of the many things I love about the role. Like Nina mentioned, I come from a little bit of a sales background. I was previously in tech. I started out actually as a BDR and then worked my way up to an account executive. And during that time, I wanted to make a switch, but I didn't really know what I wanted to go into. So one of the things I did is I took a lot of stock of what I was currently doing in my AE role, and some things I liked and some things I didn't like. During that time, I was in AE, what they call full cycles. So I was responsible from the opening, cold call all the way through the deal signed, as well as the demo and being the technical expert. What I realized is I really love demoing and being the technical expert, and not so much the prospecting and the deal signing. So with the help of a coworker and actually a family member, I stumbled upon PreSales Academy and PreSales Collective, and it's really been from there, kind of the rest is history, if you will. And then going through the academy and really my transition, there's a few different key areas that really helped me in my transition, and some areas that I feel like would be helpful for you all out there to know in terms of what you would get joining the PreSales Academy. One of the things for me personally, in terms of how I managed it with my AE role, is I prioritized all the work and the coursework in the mornings, and then obviously would attend the sessions in the evenings, and really mastering the material and leaning on those 3, my coaches, my mentor, as well as my career advisor, really set me up for success in the program. And then also when I transitioned into the job hunting stage. A lot of the coursework will stick with you, and the whole entire academy is what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. For me, I was able to come in to my new role at Trello, and I took a lot of the frameworks that I was taught at PreSales Academy and was able to influence how we do demos, how we build out different discovery frameworks, and really make a quick impact. So that's the type of experience you could have if you want to in the academy. It's really like what's already been mentioned tonight. What you put into it is what you get out of it. And in terms of the support you'll get during the job search portion of the academy, the coaches will be there and your mentors will be there to help you build various connections, set up networking opportunities. And for me, I'll say the biggest piece of advice I could give you all is really take a look at your bridging your gap in terms of if there's any sort of technical skills that you might need for whatever role. There's a ton of tech companies out there. There's a ton of different industries you can go into and really think about what skills do I currently have. And, you don't necessarily have to have all the technical skills in the world, but for me, in my role, one of the things with Trellis products is we have a lot of different API connections. So I identified that early on, and I started to take a lot of courses on APIs, building APIs, and what goes into all of that type of work. And for you all, identifying those skill gaps early on and supplementing throughout your search and throughout your time at the PreSales Academy will really set you up for the most success coming out. And that's kind of really my story in a nutshell and how I landed my first SE role. So if you all have any questions, please find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect and help you all out however I can.
Very well said, Sam. I really appreciate your notes, especially on kind of finding those skill gaps, because that is so important. Like, hey, if you are trying to go towards a specific kind of product or industry, it pays off to dive in and see, hey, what are some areas that I need to fulfill beyond just kind of the skills that I'm learning at PreSales Academy. We do a lot of work for the students and prospective students out there. We do a lot of work of kind of guiding our students to different ways and different resources to make sure ultimately you're feeling really confident with what you're presenting, especially going into a job search process. So thank you so much, Sam. I'm going to keep you here for a hot second as we go into our final slides of the evening. If anyone has questions for Sam, especially about like the student experience and starting off in a pre-sales role, please do not hesitate to share those questions. We will jump back to an open Q&A after a couple more slides. So that being said, let's talk about our next cohort for PreSales Academy. So our next cohort will be cohort 12, and they start in February. To kick it off, one big thing to be aware of for PreSales Academy is the tuition options. So for cohort 12, we do have 2 tuition options. Our first option is an upfront tuition of $4,995. That is over 2 installments. So students will pay a portion of that before they go into stage 1 of the program, and then the rest before they enter stage 2 of the program. The second option is an income share agreement. That is very limited for each cohort. I'm more than happy to share details about kind of like the structure of the income share agreement, but the basics really are our income share agreement. There is a $400 commitment fee, and then is 10% of your income over a period of 10 months. And there is also a $10,000 cap with the income share agreement. So if people have more questions about that, more than happy to share that in the Q&A, but those are our tuition options for cohort 12. If you are considering exploring pre-sales or PreSales Academy, I would highly recommend applying now, because not only does that give you an opportunity to connect with us one-on-one, but it also gives you an opportunity to kind of, make sure you're feeling good about this process. Like, our admissions process is really focused on getting to know you and your fit. And I want to make sure that anyone coming in feels confident about their ability to be successful in this profession. So if you are considering exploring PreSales Academy, I highly recommend applying now. Our applications are due on January 12th for cohort 12. Funny how that timing worked out. And that cohort will start on February 5th. So what I always say to students is the sooner you get your application in, the better, just to make sure that you are locking down your space in your future cohort, because sometimes the students who apply later and closer to the priority deadline, sometimes they miss out on that cohort, and we do need to extend their admission to a future cohort. So that is what is coming up within PreSales Academy. Let us shift to some Q&A. This is also a great space for you to find anything about us on our socials. Obviously, we are on LinkedIn, but we are also present on a lot of different platforms, and I'm going to share some links in the chat for everyone to explore as well. Also on TikTok. It's a fun journey. So let's stop the share so we can see everyone in the space. And let's go into some questions. I will let the questions kind of roll in, but a question I have for Sam, since he is in the space, what was the most challenging aspect of making the transition into pre-sales for you?
I think during my initial onboarding, probably a little bit of a unique experience, but my manager went on paternity leave. So he had a kid. So it was just myself and the other senior SE there. So I had to do a lot of learning on my own, but I think learning on your own is a part of the role too. You have to have a lot of agency and ask a lot of questions to dive into the various different products that you'll be selling and working on. So that was probably one of the harder things of being new into the role and then not having a manager there and really completing an onboarding period kind of solo in a way. I had a lot of support from a lot of different people and a lot of different departments, but yeah, I think it really taught me a lot of kind of agency and seeking out my own answers and being curious and always asking questions.
Nice, nice. Then on the flip side, what has been the most rewarding aspect of being at Trella Health so far?
I think for me, being a part of a being a part of the product team is one of the most rewarding parts of the job because you really get to be able to see ideas from an infancy stage and then see how they get to be executed throughout a business quarter or a whole entire year. That's one of the coolest parts of my job is being able to take feedback and actually influence different parts of our products. I'm kind of one of the frontline people and dealing with those customer interactions all the time. If there's a great idea or if I make a recommendation, I know my voice is heard and I can actually have influence into how we, build the vision for our products.
Nice. No, that warms my heart. I love hearing kind of like about not only the highs and the lows, but just like what the experience has been so far. So I'm so glad you've been feeling great about your experience so far at Trella Health, Sam. It really makes my day. Other questions from prospective students. We had one about how tech savvy should I expect to be confident in applying for pre-sales roles. We kind of sprinkled this within our talk track, but I do want to circle back to it just to be clear. What we always say is you do not have to have set technical skills to be successful in pre-sales, but you do need to have the technical aptitude and technical curiosity to pick up some basic technical skills, especially related to SaaS products, to be comfortable and successful in that transition. Like you'll need to know stuff about APIs, like Sam mentioned, or cloud computing, because those are topics that are really intertwined with selling software. And depending on what type of companies you're looking at, diving into additional skills, like Sam mentioned before, when he had to learn a little bit more about APIs, especially for his current role, is really important because that makes sure you're positioning yourself well. So if you are someone who wants to explore, let's say, a cybersecurity product, I'm going to expect that student to kind of dive a bit deeper, especially into courses like Security Plus, et cetera, to make sure that, hey, I have these skills and I can showcase my learning well for this role. But ultimately, what we do a lot with our students is have one-on-one conversations on what would really be a good fit for you based off your past experience and your learning capabilities in regards to fit for a product and a company long-term in your job search. So very good questions in the chat.
Can I add also
Yeah,
a little point there, Nina, too? Because I feel like being a sales engineer, so that you have a variety of different things that you're doing. It's a spectrum, right? Some you're more on the sales side, some more the engineering side. And how I've heard some people say is like, are you a big S and a little E, or are you a little S and a big E? And I think that's a great way to think about it because there's room in the space for both. And it depends on the company. It also depends on the team that you're on. And just knowing where you lie, where your strengths are, as well as if there are any sort of gaps that you need to fill, that's really important. But just know there are folks who like have no coding experience and go into the world and like little technical, but they learn. And then
Yeah.
there's folks who come up with highly, highly technical, intricate knowledge, and then it's more of the sales side that they need to learn.
No, I see a variety of applicants, some a little bit more salesy, some a little bit more techy, and sometimes applicants with neither of those skills, but they have really good interpersonal skills that really thrive in a demo environment, especially when making relationships. So that is great. I think we have time for one more question. One common question that I often get for the pre-sales profession is kind of asking about like remote work and hybrid work. So every company is very different in regards to their work from home or work structure policy. Some companies will be purely remote, but what we have been seeing in the industry is have been companies shifting to having a heavier focus on some form of hybrid environment, especially for newer employees starting out. So one thing I would like to make clear to anyone who's exploring this field is it's not always 100% remote, especially with the markets that we're looking at nowadays. Some companies really want to make sure that, hey, we have an in-person environment so that we can really foster our team and build our team culture. But some of our aspects of our work can still remain remote, especially when doing presentations with clients and such. So really depends on the company, but that is just something I have seen and a bit of a shift overall. Sam, what has your work environment been like, just for context for students?
Yeah, so my work environment, we're a fully remote company. We're based out of Atlanta. I'm based in Charleston, South Carolina, so it's not too far. I come in probably once a quarter, but I do have a fair amount of business travels. So that's really a lot of my in-person time. So going to trade shows, going to conferences, things like that. So it really depends on the company, depends on the role.
Yeah.
I have a lot of teammates who are based in the Atlanta area and go into the office as needed. So they're still hybrid, but we're still fully remote with a lot of people like all over. Our head of engineering is based in Alaska, so it just kind of depends. But yep, so we're fully remote for.
No, I appreciate that. But no, that's really good context for everyone here because it will look different. But also keep in mind, Sam mentioned like there's an element of travel in his role as well. Some roles may have travel, some may not. And I think that's also a big factor to think about. Hey, am I willing to travel also for my role? So that's another conversation we often have with students as they go into their job search of like, hey, where do you have flexibility and what's really best for kind of like your career trajectory when you're looking at specific companies and verticals. That being said, we are at our time for this evening, so I want to do some quick wrap-ups and quick thank yous. First of all, thank you so much to Sam for being here and sharing his story and his journey. Like, it is so helpful to hear about past graduates, not only during their time in the program, but also your time in the profession. So I'm so happy to have you here. And thank you all for being present and listening. It is great to share more about the pre-sales profession, and we're super excited for you to be here and to be exploring this potential career path. So if you have any questions about this recording or pre-sales in general, please reach out to us. Our email will be included in the comments. It is info@presalesacademy.com, and we hope to continue the conversation with y'all soon. So have a good evening, y'all, and we will hopefully hear from y'all soon. Bye.